go.
All right.
There.
Okay. Welcome. Today we are interviewing Shayna Cass, who is a presenter for the Journey to Secure Online Immersion. Shayna, it's really good to have you with us.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here, and I'm so happy to be presenting. And even though I would have loved to come to San Diego, it's nice that it's going to be online so that so many more people can experience what we're offering.
Yeah, beautiful. Shayna is also a modmin on the attachment community Facebook group. So there's a lot of things that happen on the back end, and just making sure that the group is well balanced. And we're always in conversation. How do we make this group safer for people and more accessible to people of all walks of life? So if you're watching this, do you want to Shayna, do you want to say a little bit more about how you identify, just so people know, and that at least they can identify with themselves if they relate?
Okay. So I identify as she, her, and I am earned secure, formerly, or leaning anxious FA. So fearful avoidant, leaning anxious. And for the most part, I showed up mostly as anxious and didn't really realize of the fearful avoidant part until I actually started doing this work. I'm also neurodivergent on the autism spectrum, and have, show up with ADHD, highly sensitive person, all that good stuff. So yeah.
Beautiful. It's really good to have you with us, and both as a presenter and a modman. It's been really great for the past how much time so far? Like maybe a year?
It's maybe been a year and a half.
Amazing.
I know. It goes by so fast.
Yeah. Exactly. And now that the pandemic is over, obviously people get to come together in person, but we decided that since our audience is from all over the world, that we would do an online immersion for starters, and then eventually we'll do a live version. Tell us a little bit about how you came to attachment theory.
Okay. So, I mean, I'd always been open to doing self-work. I've been in and out of therapy my whole life. But what really got me to kind of buckle down on the work was I was coming into conflict with a friend who, I really admired and valued his perspective. And we got into a little bit of conflict, and he told me that I had boundary issues. And that, it hurt. It hurt a lot to hear that, because I actually asked him several times to give me boundaries, and he wouldn't. But that doesn't really matter. So, I definitely had some wounding come up there, and, started to learn everything I could possibly learn about boundaries. And I did a bunch of work, and over time, I really started to get to know myself better. But it wasn't until I came to attachment theory that everything started to make sense. So, I understood, that I was basically drawing people towards me that could not meet my needs, that would see me as too much. Because that's how I saw myself, that's the type of person that I would be kind of drawn to. And once I realized that, it helped a lot. But once I came upon attachment theory, that made it make sense. There was a reason for everything. And that actually helped me to have compassion for myself. Because since I knew that there was a reason for this, that it was just because of trauma, and I think it's important to also mention that I had already done a bit of work on forgiving my parents and stuff like that. So it was a lot easier for me to, accept that, yeah, they were good people, they were good parents, and they loved me very much. But, sometimes we just are dysregulated ourselves, or sometimes we, don't really know. I mean, nobody really teaches anybody, like in the world, in society, how to self-regulate, and it's, generations and generations. I have, lots of World War II in my, like, concentration camp survivors, people who escaped Nazi Germany, or Nazi Europe during that time. And my grandfather fought in World War II. So, lots of that trauma, it folds over, from generation to generation. And just everything, kind of all the puzzle pieces. It's like I had all the puzzle pieces, but attachment theory helped me put those puzzle pieces together to make sense. And because it made sense, that helped me heal, like, even more, because I think I was still having a lot of time, like, resisting myself, accepting myself. And then once I came upon attachment theory, that really helped me to start, like, not being so hard on myself, being, and being able to take self-responsibility, responsibility for myself and my actions, and showing up the way that I show up without, like, guilt, too much guilt and inner criticism, because I have a pretty vicious inner critic.
Wow. That's rough. That can be a lot. Like, we're often told, like, I often hear we're our worst critic. Like, everybody else is like, Shayna's great, plus or minus the occasional thing. But because we live inside of ourselves, we get to, like, witness ourselves again and again and again. And we don't necessarily notice the strides that we make and the progress that we make until we're like, how was I 5 years ago? Oh, wow, I've changed a lot.
Yeah. Definitely. And yeah, it's just been, it's really been life-changing, the work that I've done here and being a part of this group. Really, I've really just started to, the more I learn about myself, it's a never-ending journey. And I'm constantly learning more and showing up better. And, if it hadn't been for this work, I actually wouldn't have been able to reconnect with that friend that told me that I had boundary issues. Like, we're friends now. And
it's solid friendship.
Well, I don't know if I would say solid. I think it has its, I think we both trigger each other sometimes, but yeah, it's way more solid than it was. And the conflict definitely, I don't know, I think on my end helped me to feel like, I guess, closer to him, or I don't know. But yeah, it really, I don't know. I think it's a really special friendship.
That's beautiful. And it's from what you're saying, it sounds like attachment theory gave you a sense of validation of what was going on for you, and also gave you a little bit of a map of, here's where I am and here's where I can go from here, which is really, kind of the best that we can hope when we're discovering and making sense of what's going on for us, like in our behaviors or coping mechanisms, to be able to say, okay, all right, it's par for the course. And I now have a better sense of what's going on for me, and it gives me a sense of what are my next steps.
Yeah, and it helped me understand the dynamic better as well, like what was happening, and maybe to, like, have more grace in terms of, because when I did all of that work on boundaries, I actually I think I would say wounded boundaries, like they were hardcore. Like, nope, I will not accept this. I will not accept this. I will not accept that. Like very kind of stringent boundaries. I went from having no boundaries whatsoever,
right,
to having like really, really, really strong boundaries. And so doing this work kind of helped me loosen those boundaries, but not in a way that like brings me back to codependency, because codependency showed up a lot for me.
yeah. So like you had no boundaries, then you have like a pendulum swung the other side, and then you kind of found a little bit more of a middle ground, something that is a little bit more relaxed and it's not so stringent, and also helps you not go into codependency.
Yeah, and to support my nervous system.
Beautiful. So that's, which is a form of self-care. Like really, when you think about it, these boundaries kind of support your self-care, and also makes it easier to keep yourself regulated, because you don't go into these places that are really tough, and then you go into coping because they're too tough.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Sure.
Tell us about the classes you're going to be teaching. I imagine they're related to your journey, but sometimes it's something you discover like, oh, I want to teach that. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So the first class I'm going to be teaching is called Deconstructing the Mosaic of You. And it's using somatic IFS, somatic parts works, rooted in internal family systems, and expressive arts to befriend and integrate our internal landscape. And basically, so what we're going to be doing there is I'm going to, do like a short, basic, PowerPoint overview of what I have, basically all of the parts, what they're called, their functions, their roles in the system, what this means, how to, kind of connect them to each other, and to see, our coping mechanisms, and, how, like, their purpose, how they're linked to the wounds, how those coping mechanisms are linked to the wounds, and then when we do that, we can see, hey, this coping mechanism meant to help me survive from this wound. That, helps have, some top down, higher level thinking that can lead to the somatic part, where we're going to be offering compassion to that part and connecting that part. So it's a two-part thing. It is both top down and it is bottom up. So after we do the the PowerPoint, then I will kind of take everybody through like a group kind of meditation, like a somatic meditation, where I will have them, think of a particular relationship, something that's coming up for them, and teach them how to basically go in and focus in on those parts that are flaring up when we think of that particular situation. So like there are certain parts of the body, that will kind of go ding, 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 when you're in there. And so I'll take them down into, a deep meditation. We'll connect with the body. And then, I'll just kind of teach them how to offer that part compassion, to sit with it. And then after that, we'll do an expressive arts exercise, to kind of take that situation that came up and put it on paper, in whatever way that people want to do, whether it's like drawing figures, whether it's like writing a poem, any kind of expressive way that helps them connect to that part more deeply. Yeah.
That's actually something that relates to what you do around attachment. You have a group that's about art, isn't it? Doesn't it?
Oh, I have, I mean, I'm an artist myself.
Right.
And I was teaching some classes related to that.
Mm.
But I didn't really, the classes that I was doing weren't really linked to parts work as much. Whereas this, like, we're actually going to go into the mapping of the parts,
Amazing.
And we won't, I mean, obviously there won't be enough time to map all of everyone's parts, but like in one situation, like we will learn how to, take the situation, the parts that come up in that situation, and map out that one situation. And then, viewers can take that and they can use that in their own life to map out all of their parts so that they have a better understanding of the relationship between parts.
That's great. Tell us about the other class as well.
So the other class that I'm going to be doing is called Authentic Relating Through Playback Theater. And so I'm basically going to be, so playback theater is something that I actually came across through some of the other group members in the attachment community who have been doing that. And, basically it's like, so if you do playback, there are people who come to the show and the actors. Are you familiar with playback? Well, okay. So I'll just be telling people because maybe somebody watching this isn't familiar. So, like people, I guess, get up and share a story and then the actors play back that story that they told. And so we're going to be doing that in small groups. And then sharing like how we experience each other, welcoming everything that comes up, really getting down deep and honest about like what came up for you when I acted out this story that you shared. How are you responding to the way that I see you? Is there like any wounding that comes up, any issues that come up around my perception of you, and then the other person will have a chance to respond to that person's experience of experiencing them. So basically it's going to be, and some of this will take place in breakout rooms, depending upon, how big the groups are, the classes are, but there will be, both classes are experiential. So if you can't make it, yes, you can definitely watch the recording, but you will get the most benefit out of these classes by showing up to the class so that you can engage with the other participants and really get like, the sense of what's going on in real time.
Amazing. Beautiful. Oh, that's exciting. I've done little bits of playback theater or something like it in workshops, and it's always a little bit wild to tell a story to tell a story and have somebody else reflect back that their interpretation of that story. And sometimes it's right on, and sometimes it's like, how did they get that? So it's fascinating to be in that particular situation. And I've seen some version of it where I'm just floored by how closely they took my story and they made it real. And that kind of reality also can be really, really interesting or really fascinating, or even just like deepening into my own experience.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole part of it is definitely when we see, I mean, if we're open, when we see other people's perspectives of our situation, it can open us up to, like things that maybe we didn't originally see.
That's right. Yeah. Also, I understand that you have a free offering that there's a PDF that is part of getting getting in one of those golden tickets to join us for the online immersion. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, I sure can. So it's a worksheet that I came up with that kind of basically has you go through a relationship to see if you're being it's like, so earlier I was telling you about how I used to have no boundaries, and then I went to having like really strong boundaries. So this is something that I kind of learned to basically figure out, am I compromising, or am I being codependent, because it can be really, really hard to step outside yourself sometimes and ask yourself, is this codependency? Because we're so wired to, do for others, and we're so wired to believe that that's what makes us a good person, and that's what gives us value, and so I came up with a bunch of different questions and, kind of like checklists and a chart, or just to kind of take yourself through looking at the situation, to ask yourself if, if this is working for you, if this is aligning for you, and if it's showing up as something that, like, if what you want for this relationship is worth making this sacrifice, or is it a sacrifice, basically, just measuring all of that in sort of a, quantifiable way, so to speak.
Like a self-assessment tool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful. That all sounds great. I'm super excited to be watching your class it's less than 12 days now. I know what's happening. Totally, so much happening. Anything else you want to add before we go?
I don't know. I mean, I think I pretty much talked about my classes and, and all of that. I mean, just basically to anybody who's maybe on the fence about whether or not to buy a ticket. I mean, I know that, like, we just had Christmas and the holidays, and maybe you spent a lot of money. I guarantee you, and there's a $10 discount you can get. There's a $30 discount you can get. Like, I mean, for the amount of presenters that we have and the quality of what they're bringing, I feel like the price is a steal, and that this is an opportunity that you really don't want to miss. It's the first time that we're doing it, so, like, if getting in now is like, this is when you want to get in, because as we, do more iterations of this, get maybe more people, the price may go up in the future. So I feel like this is really the time that you want to do it. And I mean, you won't regret it. Like, a lot of people say you can do this work on your own. And I believed that for a while too, but I also had support. We are wounded in relationship, and it is in relationship that we must heal as well. We need other people. We're not built that way. We're not wired to be alone, to do this alone. We really need each other. And that is also what this attachment work taught me. So yeah, I mean, I just definitely would really recommend, and, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, or Philippe, if you have any questions about, buying a ticket, or maybe a like more than one payment or something. I'm sure that, like, we can, would be willing to work with you if you really, really want to show up, but are just having some financial difficulties. I'm sure that we can help you out, or something like that.
And also, all the classes are going to be recorded, and we understand people are super busy. They have so much to do. And some people have said to us, like, oh, it's 5 days. Like, I can't be there for all the 5 days. And so we're recording everything. And then once a week, we'll be suggesting classes that maybe you missed after the immersion. Maybe you missed this class or that class. And it's just to remind you that you still have access to them. And so they're not lost. If you can't be there, we'll send you the links to the classes during the weeks after the immersion, and so you can go back. You can listen to them while you're driving, or while you're walking around the block, and hopefully this will be a support for you and your journey. And also, let us know if you'd like to join the Attachment Community Facebook group, because that's yet another way that you can do it not alone. You can do it with other people who are on the same journey. All right.
Yeah. All
Beautiful.
right.
Thanks so much, Shayna.
Thank you, Philippe. I can't wait.
Okay.